Hi everyone. We are going to be looking at a rum from the past. I've written about this already many years ago. I think it was like 10, 12 years back. But I really wanted to give it a video as well to just refresh the memory of those who don't find this anymore, don't know anything about it, or have never seen it before. And this is the Damoiseau 1980 that was released by Velier. Now, there's a reason for that I want to talk about this, because to me it represents something of a divide. And what I mean by that is that there were the rums that Velier had released before that point, from 1996, from 2000, from 2002, and then there was this one which changed everything, and that led to the Age of Velier, which I contend started in 2004. What was different about this? Well, let's just go back in history for a bit to understand what we're talking about. Velier is known these days for these great series of rums. There was the Demerara's, there was the Coronis, there was the Indian Ocean series, there's the Hamptons, of course. There are the flag series rums that they're doing now in conjunction with La Maison and Velier, and there have been other series of this nature before. Much of this is educational, much of this is part and parcel of the ethos of Luca Gargano, the boss, who always wants to talk about something new and something interesting. This is a one-off though, and he does release one-offs every now and then. And the reason why I think it's important is because it was released at 60.3% in 2002. Now, in 1996, Luca had released, I think it was 4 different Demerara rums at 40%, and he liked them. He got them from DDL at the time, and he thought they were okay, but he released them at 40%, and they sold well, decently enough. But he wasn't quite satisfied with that. So in, I think it was 98 or 2000, then he released 3 more. These were all Demeraras, by the way, Albions, Diamonds, Port Morants, that kind of thing. So the next series that he did was with a different set of artwork that was released at 4-6%. And this is where he started to think that something just had to change, because these things were just simply nice in and of themselves, but they weren't bottled at barrel strength, barrel proof, foolproof, as he called it later. And somewhere around 1998, he was running around with Velier Damoiseau of Damoiseau, and he was given this barrel to taste, which did not match the AOC specs of Damoiseau. And the reason why is because it had some molasses in the blend. That made it different. That also made it, to their minds at that time, unsellable. And he decided, okay, Velier Damoiseau decided, look, let's just see if Luca can do anything with it. And Luca tasted it, and he said, this bloody thing is absolutely amazing. So because it wasn't AOC, it didn't really matter, but he basically took a few barrels off of them, and then he shipped them off to Italy, and there they stayed until the rum was issued in 2002. Now, in an interesting little backstory, Luca did actually believe that he had all of it, the entire stock of this 1980, but in point of fact, Damoiseau did just keep a little back for themselves, and they issued their own, and I think that was in 1998 itself. They released their own Damoiseau 1980 rum with a yellow label, and I've got that somewhere in my collection in Calgary, right? But this is the one that Velier released 4 years later in 2002 at 60.3%, which is huge. I mean, you had to understand what the world was like back then. 60.3% was unheard of. I mean, Cadenhead might have done it once in a while, but for the general mass audience out there, it was all blends, it was all for standard strength. 4-6% was considered almost heretical at the time. And here we got this. Right, what do we got? So it's a rum from Guadeloupe, from Damoiseau. It's bottled at 60.3%. It's a blend of molasses and cane juice rums, aged 18 years. And there is some dispute about whether the 4 years between 1998 and 2002, when Velier had it, whether any aging was done already. Well, it was stored in a foudre, which is a very large vat, and apparently it was supposed to be inert. I kind of doubt it. There is a slight difference between Damoiseau's own 1998 version and the 2002 version of which this is, but it's kind of up for conjecture, and I really couldn't tell you very much about it. All right, well, let's see what it's all about. As far as I know, it is a column still rum, by the way, right? But I mean, bloody hell, this is brown. It's really kind of thick. Wow, amazing. This is just an amazing rum. They just don't make rums like this anymore, which is not to say that the rums today are bad. It's just that this shines a light into the way rums were made 20 years ago, 25 years ago, in a way that we don't often see anymore, right? 1980, my God, it was distilled at a time when the world was completely different. The Iranian Revolution had just taken over. Jonestown had just happened in Guyana. Reagan was just about to be inaugurated as, or he was just going to win the election for the United States presidency, and God knows what else was going on in the world. But it was an interesting time, and this rum almost encapsulated that really well. The thing is, there is so much going on here. There is just a lot of smells here and aromas to just savor forever. So there is a little bit of the standard taste that you might expect. There's a little bit of vanilla. There's that bourbony sort of note to it. There's leather. There's smoke. There's vanilla. There is a little bit of acetones. It's not very salty. It smells a little bit sweet. But the fruits, it's dark fruit. It's blackberries. It's blackcurrants. It's lychees. It's a little bit of licorice down there in the background. And the best part about it is that there is even a little bit of the agricole staying there. Yeah. Now, I've always maintained that after you age an agricole style rum for too long, it starts to kind of be the same as any other type of molasses-based rum, because the barrel takes on that influence that happens. And the J. Bally 18-year-old is a good example of that in action. But here, there's a sort of an amalgam of the two noses that really works well, because you do get the very slight hints of marzipan and grass and a little bit of herbaceousness, dill, and perhaps even chopped parsley if you really want to go there. It's lovely, absolutely lovely. So when you taste it, it is 60%. It's going to be a bit sharp, but it calms down really, really rapidly. Now, at the Rum Depot store in Berlin, I basically tasted this last night with Dirk Becker while I was shooting through the city. And we let this stand for a couple of hours, and we tried it over and over again in conjunction with a bunch of others. This is bloody brilliant. It is firm, yet soft. It's a little bit scratchy from the heat, but it's more like a sort of firm spiciness kind of thing. And it goes down so very, very neatly. It's rich, dark, deep, pungent. It's got plums, blackberries, leather again, smoke, marzipan, dill, a little bit of herbs in there, so a little bit of green grasses, sort of like wet earth when it's, or hot earth when it's struck by fresh rain after a sunshine. It's that kind of beautiful, deep, loamy, dark taste to it that is absolutely phenomenal. And I would really have to stretch my imagination to think of a rum in this day and age that represents this kind of profile. We just don't see this anymore. Yes, they're better and they're more elegant, and there are other rums out there, but my God, this is really quite amazing. Wow. Some nougat, some nuts. There's a little bit of sweet, a little bit of salt. It's just brilliant. There isn't much sour here and there isn't much citrus here, but in this case, it isn't really needed. Usually the acid kind of cuts the mellower flavors and gives you a better amalgam. It isn't really needed here. This is absolutely fantastic for what it is. I believe I scored this about 92 points. I see no reason to change that score at all. Even now, all these years later, looking at this bottle again, tasting it again, reliving the experience I had back in the day, and remembering what it's like after so many hundreds of rums later, I still think this is one of the better rums that I've ever tried in my life. And I'm really glad that I've been able to share this with people. One last note then, after all of this, there's the before and the after, which is what I like to say happens. So the thing is, this thing sold really, really well for Velier. And what that meant is that it gave Luca the confidence to say, perhaps I should really start issuing the rums that I have at full proof, because the proof of concept has been made. This thing sells. There is a market for this. People like this. And this is what led to the Age of Veliers, Demerara's, and then the Coronis and everything else that led beyond that. The famous black bottles with the Skelton 1973 and 78, and the 1982 Blairmont and some of the earlier releases that came out just around 2004, and then that I found 10 years later, still unappreciated and still loved. They had their genesis in this one rum. It is an amazing piece of work. It is one of the really great rums of the past, and even if it's not available now, I have it and I share it to everybody who passes through, just so that they can understand what it was like back then. I know I'm enthusiastic, but it really is a nice piece of work. So that's it for right now, and I hope you enjoyed this review. And if you ever do manage to come across my path, or you ever manage to get a bottle of this for yourself, or the Damoiseau 1998 itself with the yellow label and also the tall bottle, by all means get it. It is really, really worth it. That's it for now. Take care, everybody. Until the next time. Bye-bye.